Good morning, podcast people. Today we have a topic for you, which is just how are you? We want to talk about how do we do, what happened in the last weeks, and just share our experiences and have a nice chat with each other. So, Otto, how are you today?
Hello, Henrik. I'm Otto. Nice to have everyone here. I'm actually not doing the best today. I know it's a very common thing in probably all of the work. You're like, oh, how are you? Good. And you just keep on walking and you don't really talk about how you are. But here I am breaking the flow. No, I don't know. I'm a bit, I have a mini flu. I don't know. It's not Corona apparently, but I just feel low. I feel a bit tired. I feel like a headache. And I woke up in the middle of the night, super weird. Like I had a sensation of having an allergy. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, I mean, I know this feeling, when I eat raw fruit, I'm allergic to raw fruit. And I felt it very strong. It was like, ooh, like a sting in my body. I was like, what the fuck is going on in the middle of the night? I didn't eat anything for the last hours. So maybe it was a dream, maybe it was not, but here I am. How are you, Sheldon?
I'm good. I usually reply with "I'm good," and then
but
I elaborate on that. But if you allow me to be meta a little bit, in Brazil, the question is not "How are you?" or you have this greeting as well, "How are you?" But usually, people say "Hi, are you fine?" which is a presumption that you are fine, like, and then you have to say yes or no. Which is interesting. Anyway, and then when I arrived here in Ireland, I started listening people saying "How are you?" but not in a question intonation, but more in an affirmation, like "How are you? How are you?" And then like just moving on with the day. And then I had a manager. So I usually reply to "How are you?" with like a correct answer. If I'm good, I will explain why. Or if the person is just passing by like on a public transportation, then there's no time for that. But if it's work or an environment that I can talk like this, for example, I would elaborate a little bit. And then I had another, like a manager in one of the previous jobs I had, that he would always reply properly. And he was kind of like my inspiration because he was Irish. So I was like, okay, I have someone that thinks same as me, and thinks that "How are you?" should be replied properly. So yeah. For me, I'm doing some self-analysis this week because over the past 4 weeks, I had change on environments, and I realized how much I missed my office. This room here is dedicated to my stuff, either work or private projects or whatever. It's my own cave, let's say. And over the past 4 weeks, I didn't have my own place, and some other things I changed on time zones and stuff like that. So there were a lot of things that changed, and one of them was sleeping schedule. And as you can see here, it's taking more time to be bright during the day. This is because we are in autumn in Ireland, and the days are shorter. And I'm taking advantage for that to set up different lighting on my background, which is interesting. I feel like a YouTuber because I have some neon lights or LED lights. But yeah, so that's more or less how I'm feeling. Just trying to settle up on my own home again. And how are you, Hendrik?
Thanks for asking, Sheldon. So I'm actually pretty fine, and that's my honest answer. A little bit tired. I'm in Tenerife right now. It's dark. I can maybe show a little bit the environment. Over there would be the ocean, but I think you don't see it yet. Maybe you see it a little bit. So yeah, I'm on classic vacation mode with my girlfriend. She's sleeping next to the wall. And yes, so I'm doing pretty well. We had a stressful arrival here. I was not allowed to enter Spain through England because I had passport problems. So I had to book a new flight. And then they canceled that flight. And then I had to get a new flight. And during all that, I was positive on COVID and I was feeling pretty shit. So yes, that's how I got here. But in the end, it went well. I'm recovering and I'm pretty healthy again right now. So yeah, right now I'm doing pretty good. And to pick up what you said, Sheldon, like on the different responses, like yeah, I also noticed like sometimes like this question, "How are you?" It is just a check. Like if you meet someone, for example, in the bus, on the bus, or in the city, and you're both in a hurry, you're just like, "Yo, what's up? How are you? Are you good? Yeah, fine, I'm good." This would be more like just as a question, like, are we still in a good social relationship with each other? Is everything still okay? And I also think that's fine, like just to use this question like for this purpose, like just to recognize, hey, yo, I remember you, like I see that you're there, I appreciate it, and I want to keep like some contact with you. So I'm just gonna throw this easy question to you just to show that our social interactions with each other are still good. So Otto, maybe you want to tell like about your last weeks, like what happened and how the different events made you feel.
What if I don't want to talk about the last weeks, but I want to pick up your topic? Am I allowed? Because I want to. So you were, let me just quickly pick up on this, because you were saying that asking someone how they are is maybe, yeah, as you say, like a social handshake, right? I mean, it's you set the grounds, you establish kind of the same level of communication. I think you were saying it was more on a social level. I find it very interesting. Like, do we still have a social established relationship in some way? But I mean, maybe the way I see it is a bit more less, I mean, inquiring if, you know, it's still safe to talk to the person. It's more like literally checking in on their needs, on their, you know, stress level, how much time do they have? I mean, do they even want to talk to me? Less than if they actually still want to talk to me in a way that is socially or relationship, right? So I would say it is very important, because let's say you want to talk about starting a new gym plan with your gym buddy. I think that it's very crucial to know how your gym buddy is feeling, you know, because if they feel like, oh, I have the shittiest day today and I got, I don't know, one of my family members got really sick and in the hospital and they really feel emotionally drained, then it's maybe not the right time, or maybe, yeah, you know, to ask certain things. So yeah, that's the way I see it in a practical way. And also the other thing is to answer the questions. I mean, if somebody asks me how I am, I mean, I think there's two ways to answer this. One is, how am I right now? Like literally, first thing comes to my mind, okay, I am hungry, I'm a bit sleepy, and you know, and this and that. But the other thing is like, how are you in life? I should start doing that, like, oh man, how are you doing in life? And then expect a very, very deep answer to that. Because that's also, I mean, it also affects you. Like you can have a perfectly fine day, but compared to your life, how you are, maybe it's good, but then overall, because you're doing very bad in life right now, you're doing good, then overall it's still kind of bad. I don't know. I don't know what I'm rambling right now, but maybe Sheldon, you can make sense out of what I'm rambling.
I think 1 second. Yeah, I think I have something on my throat, or maybe it's just because I just woke up. So what you just said reminded me of some people, like, for example, sometimes you just want to say, just want to greet the person, like, hey, how's it going? And the other person start talking everything about their life, like for half an hour. And that's not the thing that we want. We just wanted like a shorter version of that. So I think it comes on, like you have to read the room and understand like what the type of answer the person is expecting. Like we said earlier in this episode, if you're just on a bus greeting someone, maybe, and the person is taking off the bus and you're entering the bus, like there's no time for anything, so just hi. And I think that hi is a Danish or Swedish greeting. I don't remember, maybe Otto could confirm that.
I mean, you can say hey, which I mean is kind of like yo, but it actually means bye, which is so hey, it's like a see you, bye next time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so and I was trying while you were talking before, I was trying to remember like that there are different types of greetings as well, and ones that welcome a longer form of answer. Nothing came to my mind. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we want to hear more, like we want to really know how are you, and sometimes we just want to say hello and move on with our lives. So yeah, that's what I think about this topic. Hendrik, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I also think like sometimes you just don't have the time capacity to go fully into detail, but I think you can also truly surprise someone. So for example, like if you break the expected and someone asks you in a hurry how you are and you come up with a detailed answer, I think this also has the possibility to have a positive impact on the relationship to the other person. Because like, okay, I really didn't expect the person opening up to me. He really trusts me. But I think it can also go the other way, maybe, because someone could be annoyed, like, all right, fuck, now I'm stuck here in this, and I just wanted to move on. So maybe it's also a little bit of fine feeling that is needed for the right amount of information. I mean, you can also say, hey, I'm not doing so well, but very shortly and also in a positive way. So for example, if you're super stressed and like everything is like exploding in your head, you could say like, yo, what's up? Like, hey, I'm super busy right now. And this could be like a quick summary that would be fitting, and the other person would anyways have a little idea of what's going on in your life right now. Did you ever have that, one of you guys? Like maybe Sheldon, did you have that before, that you said to someone like, hey, how are you? And then they gave you an unexpected long answer that stuck you in place? Did you ever have that?
I was on the other end. I was the one giving longer answers because of the thing I said before. I was always trying to be as honest as possible with the greeting. So if the person said, "How are you?" I would tell them some interesting answers and like long form elaborated answer. And this reminded me of one talk that I watched like a few years ago, maybe 8 years ago or something. There is a woman named Brene Brown, and she's basically the OG, like the most famous person that talks about vulnerability. And she always talks about how important being vulnerable is to exercise leadership. And leaders and people that are courageous, they are usually more vulnerable, and vulnerability is actually a trait of a leader and not a trait of a weak person. And I found that interesting, and I started to exercise that. And every time that I'm vulnerable in a group, in my team at work, or in a group in another scenario, this brings me some interesting insights. And people usually, they are sometimes what happens is that they are more open to reply back to me, or we create a rapport, a bonding, and they can like talk some real stuff with me on another scenario, or at least they see me as a person that they can rely on, that they can talk about like tough shit. And yeah, that's something that I like to do as well. So yeah, there was a good feedback over time. Yeah, so that's it for me.
in general, when we think about the concept of greeting, I remember seeing, I think it was some kind of kids show, maybe it was Wissen macht A for everyone who had access to German TV a few years ago, that the act of greeting is actually, I mean, comes pretty much from the act of showing that you don't want to attack someone, that you want to be safe. So that's why usually a greeting involves a handshake or some kind of gesture, maybe in Asian culture, it's not a handshake, but like a, you know, a bow or something in that in that way. And also the reason you take your dominant hand is that, you know, you can't do anything else with the dominant hand. If you would take your non-dominant hand, assuming that you're both people are right-handed or left-handed, well, you can't take another, like a little sword and then out of nowhere attack someone because your dominant hand is busy. So in that way, also, I think a physical touch to the other person indicates like, oh, I'm actually a little feeling. It's like a little hug, but you know, you hug with the hands in some way.
Oh, you
And,
just reminded me of something. But before I tell you something and ask you guys around, I'm gonna share another trivia that I just reminded. So when you say cheers with drinks, I heard, I don't remember where I heard, but you can Google it and fact check that the cheers, like the fact that you you beat two cups together or two glasses together, originated from the fact that they wanted to spill a little bit of the drink on other cups so that everybody was drinking the same thing. And if one of them was poisonous, the other person would be poisoned as well. So it was like a agreement of trust, let's say. And what
I also remember hearing that, but yeah, I have not gone yet and fact checked it, but two people saying it's like this, maybe it's even more a bit like this.
Yeah, and what I wanna ask you guys is that so when you're not so close to the person, you would handshake them, but if you're closer to the person, you would hug or kiss, and the kiss has a number which varies from country to country. So, and also inside countries. So in Brazil, there are some places that is just one kiss, and some other places that are two kisses, and some other places that are three kisses. And I want to ask you guys about Germany. How many kisses you guys do?
Make a guess how many kisses we do in Germany.
So
Yeah.
None. 0.
it's the magical number. It's the 0. I think we don't do that, which is also maybe representative of German culture, that it's more cold compared to some southern countries. For example, I know in France they do that. I've been on exchange in France, and I think it's a common thing there. Also, the people from Turkey, they do it. The Turkish people also do it in Germany sometimes, so I remember that. But yeah, in Germany, we don't do that. Otto,
Yeah.
what's your experiences from Sweden and also from Argentina, from your southern family parts?
I mean, I would say most of, Central Europe, does not do it as far as I know. I mean, when I think about, Germany, Denmark, Austria, Switzerland, Netherlands, okay, France maybe, but Poland, I'm not sure about that. But I mean, it's actually not, it doesn't feel very common. I would also say maybe in most parts of the world, it doesn't feel that common. But yeah, in Argentina, I think it also hasn't been super common, but also I'm a bit biased because I went there a lot when I was younger, and every time I met someone with family, and meeting someone from the family is always a bit different than meeting someone like a friend or a colleague or something. But I know that, yeah, Spain, I would say Italy as well, like all the Latin-based countries probably do it. But yeah, not in Sweden. Like, oh my goodness. I mean, if you, I just imagine if you like somebody ask you, hey, how are you? And you tell them about his life story, they're gonna be like, what the fuck? Or you greet someone else, you say, hey, and reach out for a kiss, they're gonna, I don't know, run away. Or I don't know, Swedish people are very non-confrontational, so I would probably say they would just freeze and they would let it happen, and then they would pretend this never happened, and then they, I don't know, let out the aggression somewhere else. Sounds very bad, but I'm trying to make fun of stereotypes.
This just reminded me of a GIF where the person is trying to hug and the other one goes to the forehead and do like this and then shake hand. But so in my region, the region that I grew up in Brazil, we do just one kiss, and it's usually between girls and girls or boys and girls. If it's boys to boys, it's just a handshake. However, if you're very intimate to your friend or your mate, men, like male friend, you would usually like hug or do one kiss on like one side. I usually, my closest friends, I usually kiss on one side, and I've seen this happens in France and Italy as well. Yeah, I don't know for the other countries, or if I'm biased towards a very selective type of person. But yeah, that was my experience.
I have one question. When it comes to greeting, still the same concept. I mean, one way obviously is in real life. You bump into someone or you meet at a specified time or whatever. But if you think about greeting online, I mean, I can tell from my experience that, you know, when you chat, especially in work environments, and that's something that maybe happens a bit more now with Corona and things being more online and remote and stuff. And I found myself in the beginning of my working life a lot in environments where you maybe not even greet. You like, hey, in this file, I need this thing. Do you know where it is? And then you just get it and you just move on. But that was very IT heavy like environments. But now the more I think about it, the more I realize, yeah, what I always do these days is like, hey, and then relating some kind of context. Like if I don't have anything, I just say, I mean, how are you doing? Or like, hope you're doing well, or I don't know, refer to the weather, or like establishing some, you know, report, some common ground, and then say what I want. And I think it's actually kind of nice thing to do, because receiving a message that is a bit, you know, engaging you, and it's also specifically bound to you, can be very nice. But I also sometimes think, I don't know if people need that, or if it's like just unnecessary work and just bloats the message and it's chat, and do I really need to do this? What are your thoughts on this? Would you do this in chat?
Yeah, Hendrik, you want to go first?
Actually, can you repeat the question, Otto? I didn't totally understand.
So basically, when you're in a work environment and you want to reach out to your colleague and you need like a certain, you need the number of something. I would not say, maybe in my early days, I would say, what is this and this number? Literally, no hey, no nothing. Then I would say, okay, hey, name, what is this number? But these days I say, oh, hey, John, how did it go last weekend with the trip to something? And then I would say my question. So how do you see it?
Wow, that's interesting, because I developed the exact other way. Like when I was younger and just starting out in my profession, I would be like, hey, buddy, like, how's it going? How are you? How did XYZ go? And how can I solve this problem? And or what is this information? And now, since I'm more adult and I also have more responsibilities in our team, and a lot of people are texting me, I'm always pissed off when someone says like, hey, how are you? And then I'm like, okay, now I have to also take time for the 8th person to answer this today. I would be like, I would just skip that if someone asks me, how are you? And just wants something, because I know they're actually texting me because they want me to help them solve the problem. So I just skip to that part and I skip the how are you, and I would just answer that. So yeah, I went the exact other direction. I had a colleague like in a different company before who was the lead developer there, and he was also like, okay, don't text me how are you, stop that bullshit, just come up with your question. I'm so busy, like just tell me what you want. And since I'm also growing personally and getting more knowledge, and people also come to me like for that reason more, I will also do that. It would be probably different if it's a colleague that I'm not working so close with. So this mostly applies to the most close team members whom I'm communicating with each day on a regular basis. Sheldon, how's it going for you?
What you just described is one school of thought called No Hello. And if you search on Google, you find a lot of websites that just summarize everything that you said. And I learned about this website when I was working at Amazon. And some people would have these on their Slack or whatever messaging app status, no-hello.com, which is the website that describes, like, please jump this questioning and just go towards what you actually want to say. And there is another website, I didn't find this one, which is yes hello or something, which is the other school of thoughts. Like, hey, please, let's have some personal sharing before you asking me what you want. And what I found is that there is a in between, which is basically you don't want to say rude and just asking the question. So you would say like something like, hey, I hope you're fine. So you're not asking a question, because if you're inviting the person to a personal conversation, then have this conversation first and then do your ask later. So what I usually do is that, hey, hope you're fine, and then my question. And this actually is my closing thoughts for today. Read the room, and if you see that there is a space for more conversation, then do it. And if there's no space for that, then just do what you want to do and move on. And it needs some practicing, and you're going to fail sometimes, but over time you'll feel more confident on this strategy. And this is my strategy.
I mean, I fully agree with the no hello thing, by the way. This is something I mean, just to explain who's not aware of no hello. No hello refers to the fact that some people chat to you and they say hi. And that's it. And you're like, I mean, should I wait for them to type? Are they going to come up with something? So this is something I think is not very productive, because it doesn't ask anything. It doesn't involve, it doesn't let you know something. It literally just takes your time, and not in a good way. So yeah, I'm also pretty much in between. Not the no hello, not the yes hello, but just the in between. So basically I have one message, which is, hey John, how did it go last weekend with the trip to Barcelona? And do you know, by the way, what the number for this and this is? So I give it in one message. And then basically my closing thought would be that communication is two ways, obviously. And it is in your biggest interest to, put the right words out that you can get the right things back. So if you just give a person a yes/no question, well, you will get back a yes or no, and that's it. I mean, it's to say in Brazil, hey, are you good? Yes or no. I mean, you won't really get much. I mean, it's a closed question. But if you ask open-ended questions, or even if you ask two questions, so I ask him in one message, how was the trip to Barcelona last week? And do you know what this and this is? Then I can already read from like context, oh, he does not answer how it was, so I think it's fine, he just wants to move on. He's probably busy, and he just gives you the number. Or he spends like 5 messages about telling how it was. Okay, so he wants to connect, and that maybe I'm in a stress, and I can be like, oh, yeah, I really cool stuff, but I mean, in a nice way, but I need to move on. And giving these flexibilities, open-ended questions maybe as well, or multiple questions, is a good way to get us some insights how the other person is doing, which can be very helpful for your flow of conversation, that maybe in the end you can establish the point that you want to make. So yeah, it's a two-way door. No, it's a two-way communication, and leave open-ended questions or open questions so you can listen better. That's my closing thoughts.
Right. Let me pick up from there with my closing thoughts for today. I agree with what Otto said. I think it's a little bit like playing table tennis. You're just playing the ball to the other person and taking a look how he responds. And sometimes I think it's also good in the remote world that a lot of us are in right now to take a little bit time to talk about emotions, to talk about personal feelings, to talk about personal events, just to keep connected and make life more enjoyable, because you're not working with computers at all. So you're still working with other humans together. And even if you're using this asynchronous communication, then sometimes it's nice to like just be with a colleague, like, hey, we didn't talk for a while. Should we just have a coffee chat like for 5 minutes today, just to catch up and just to have some personal time together at work? So yeah, sometimes it's fine to talk with colleagues or friends and just take time to say, hey, how are you? Because I think this takes our personal relationships really to the next level. Sheldon?
Yeah, I think that was really nice. And yeah, I think it was really good episode. We started talking about ourselves and answering the question of how are you, and then we went deep on the meta on the question itself. So I think that's it for today. And do you guys have anything else to say before we end this episode?
Not much. I mean, everyone can ask themselves, how are they? I mean, it's a good way of thinking. Also, like, remember yourself sometimes that the simple act of how are you actually has a very deep meaning behind it, and it is a very strong like element of conversations and everything. So it's always nice to know yeah, how you feel, right?
Yeah. So if you're listening to this episode up until this point, please leave in the comment and answer the question of how are you, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.